right, it's another week of the OG Gambling Syndicate. I'm Joe Giglio, joined by Josh Goodson. And Josh, you can't you can't hit and run. You can't win and walk away and not give people a chance
Yeah.
to get their money back. You can't lose spectacularly and publicly the way that I did last week and then not come back and face your punishment. So here I am a week after my hammer play of Georgia not realizing that the football game had started. I can't really think of any other explanation for why they would be down 28-0. They did come back. I did not watch a single second of the second half of that football game out of spite. So I'm glad I didn't know what happened. And I'm also glad that I cashed out when it was 21-0 and I was able to make $40 on my $300 or $400 bet. So
yeah. You know what?
Here I am facing me. So this is me.
In hindsight, I think your premise was fine. I think something we forget about is like even the Georgias of the world. I think I saw some stat over the last 2 or 3 NFL drafts. They've had insert ridiculous number 25 players drafted, right?
Yeah.
And I think we have to kind of realize that like even the Georgias of the world, when they lose that amount of players, it's not as automatic that you're just literally going to insert another professional athlete. You said it about Peyton Wilson, right? Like Peyton Wilson was an NFL player for NC State playing college football. Georgia had a bunch of NFL players all over the place playing college football because hence they're drafted, hence they're playing. And so they're going to be fine. Ultimately, the 12-team playoff makes it where it doesn't really matter for them. Like they're still going to make the playoff, assuming. Well, it'd be fun. It would be funny if they lose to Texas. Like is a 10-2 Georgia in because they're not in the SEC championship
right.
game.
I think they'll get in at 10-2 because at that point they either need to beat Tennessee or Texas. Now they lost the scheduling roulette in the SEC, so
it's crazy
by having to play Alabama, Tennessee, and Texas. Of course, they're Georgia; they can't play Georgia. Tennessee's schedule is also very tough. I do think there will be 4 SEC teams in the college football playoff this year, so I wouldn't worry about that. I took one of those what I call safe parlays last week. How's about this for some Giglio magic last week?
Let me hear it.
I went into my college football futures, and I was like, what would be a really safe play? I'm tired of these. Okay, if the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, college football, and women's college basketball Final Four parlay hits, I'll make $1 million, right?
Right.
I was like, what can I do that's like super safe? So I made 2 bets. You ready for these?
When did you make these? You made these this week?
I made them last week on like Thursday.
Made them last week. Okay.
Yeah. So last week I go, what is like super safe? What's like the safest possible thing? So I took for college football. So I took Miami and Clemson. It was plus money to make the ACC championship game.
To play each other.
Not a winner. I don't have to pick a winner. I just needed to pick 2 teams to make the ACC championship game.
Yep.
Miami should have lost on Friday. I was sitting there looking at it like, did I really just do this? Like, I was even over at Longleaf Swine on that day, and I'm like, man, I just made a safe parlay. Clemson, Miami make the ACC championship game. Okay. Only rescued by the replay office there in Charlotte. So, and that doesn't mean they're going to get there either, by the way. I mean, the way that their offensive line played in that game raises a lot of red flags for Miami. The other one I took was Georgia and one other team to make their respective. I think it might have been Penn State to make their respective conference championship games. And I'm like,
Georgia to make the SEC, just make the SEC title game, and Penn State just to make the Big Ten title game. Okay,
that's also now dead. So, yeah.
So what you're saying is they're on a heater.
Well, you know what's funny? Is I won our contest last week, or I tied for the best mark last week. I have my baseball bets finally, after just getting murdered during the baseball season, my baseball knowledge has accumulated, and I'm off to a 4-0 start in the playoffs. My hockey preseason is kind of half and half, but my NFL stuff's been pretty good. But yeah, I broke up gambling rule last week. And I feel like I should probably talk about it. I went big on that game, and it obviously cost me.
Wouldn't you rather have known you're losing right at the get then? Like, how actually did you see the end? Did you actually were you awake for the end?
No, I was awake. I was in spite mode. I turned it off when it was 28-0. I cashed out when it was 21-0. I turned it off when it was 28-0. And then I was like, I was still awake because I went to the ECU
Roadrunners.
Texas San Antonio game, and I was like, I was wide awake. So I was watching Penn State, Illinois, because I had that other Penn State future. And I'm watching Penn State going, are we sure they're gonna get there? So no, I in my brain, it was 28-0 and they lost. And when I think it was Josh Graham who was on the same game with me, he texted me like the eyeball emojis at whatever time. And when I woke up, I saw the text and I was like, oh my God, they had the lead, but they wouldn't have covered because I had it at -2.
Yeah. That I'm glad you weren't awake for that. I'll just kind of say it like that. Sometimes it's just good to be, if you're going to get beat, like get beat early, like just kind of know what's going to happen. Make your bed with it and be done with it. So I'm mad. My hammer. See, I don't think you had the right side. I think if Georgia had covered, you probably would have gotten. I don't know. We can call it lucky, whatever.
Yeah,
I had
absolutely.
Michigan. I had Michigan last week as like my hammer,
and I liked it. And they were up what 24-3.
It was 9.5 at home against Minnesota, and it was like the perfect script of how they're like. Minnesota's terrible. They're the team that couldn't. Like again, if you can't score more than 20 points against UNC now, like that's
what are you doing? Yeah,
right. And Minnesota fought, and for whatever reason, I don't know if it was so much Michigan stopped trying, or I don't even know why Minnesota decided to try to fight too. But that one did not get home. But I had the right side. Unlike you, I can not happy about it, but if I have the right side, I'm not too upset. Type thing. So, anyways, we're on to another week.
We are on to another week. Let's start with the Wolfpack at home noon game. Get used to that noon slot.
No, next week.
I know. Well, the last however many games have been at noon. So NC State -5.5 against Wake Forest. NC State did finally cover the 6 if you had it at 6 or 6.5.
It was only like 6 or 6.5 for like a day or something like that. I think it closed north of 7 or right around 7. So some people probably didn't get that number.
The site that I use to track teams' record against the spread has the classic, hey, remember during basketball season when we won you all that money by, winning the ACC championship as a super duper long shot and getting to the Final Four as an even longer shot? Well, here you go now. Both NC State and North Carolina this season are 0-4-1 against the number. It kind of seems impossible, Josh.
Yeah. Well, State kind of played with their food. Well, State just has not executed. They have not played like a really good first half, especially in any of these like bad against these like quote unquote bad teams, to be able to kind of get a lead. And I know that fans don't like to hear this, but when Dave Dorn has a 10-point lead in the second half, I may just start taking a live number on the other team just to cover. Because last week was the perfect scenario.
Breaks will be applied.
Like when State was up 10, I guarantee you the live number was probably something like State plus or minus 9.5 or something like that.
Well, they won't let you cover live. So live, it would either be 10.5 or 13.5. Yeah.
Right. Excuse me. Yes, you're exactly right. And if you watch that game, CJ Bailey did not play well. The defense was playing good, and that was like that. Basically, it was a Dave special. Get up by 2 scores, win with punting, win with defense, just win the game. And doesn't matter if it's by 1 or by 3 and it ended up being by 7. So I don't know. If State gets up, if they're up in the second half against Wake by more than 2 touchdowns, I might take a little Wake live just to kind of, because that's who they are. And I know fans hate it, but that's who they are.
So what the heck happened to Wake Forest in 21? Wake State goes down to Winston-Salem. They lose 45-42, costs them the division title. Wake goes on and plays Pitt in the ACC championship game. Wake has an 11-3 season, despite the fact that that year Wake lost to both Clemson and North Carolina. Meanwhile, NC State was 9-3 that year with wins over Clemson and North Carolina, but did not reach 10 wins and did not play for an ACC championship. Since then, Wake Forest has fallen off the face of the earth and lost to NC State in 22 in Raleigh, which is no big deal, 30-21. The more of the anomaly was last year down in Winston-Salem. Wake Forest wasn't even competitive in this football game. It was 26-6. It was a November game. It was kind of rainy. It was cold. They did not appear to be interested in playing football. NC State with Brendan Armstrong kind of reborn. Just kind of went down there, controlled them. Kind of a classic Dave game, perfectly honest with you. What do we see a style of game this week? How do you think Wake now this year at 1-3 with a struggle of a win? Yes, I know the final score was 45-13, but they struggled against North Carolina A&T in the opener. Since then, they lost by 1 to Virginia, did not show up against Ole Miss, and then got lost by 3 to Louisiana Lafayette. So here's Wake. You figure got to be in desperate mode, right?
Not only did they not show up, but the Ole Miss thing is funny. The story of that game was they got out of the future game. It's almost like they got out of the current game they were playing.
Right. By buying out the return game.
Well, yeah, we're not even going to try in this game that's actually happening today.
Right. I mean, Wake's got to fight in this game, right? Like, I think for all of those years where Dave Clawson ruined Dave Doran's season, the number one lesson I always took away from those games was Wake Forest cared more about those games than NC State. Yeah. I think since probably 20, and State won in 20 as well. I think since then, you're looking at this going NC State finally saying, now, wait a second. We need to treat this game with the respect that Wake Forest deserves. And I think you've seen State now win 3 of the last 4. But this has got to be Wake's Super Bowl. This has to be Wake's Super Bowl, no?
Yeah, Wake's going to fight. I mean, looking at their schedule, I mean, I don't. Their goal is to make a bowl game at this point this year.
How?
How? What I'm getting at is they don't have any other aspirations. Like if you're doing the game of it's October the 3rd, what are we playing for? It's bowl eligibility for Wake. So basically needing 4 more wins, and they probably look at this game as like an opportunity to do that. And it's a rivalry game. Dave Clawson actually, like you said, cares about playing Duke, Carolina, and State. Like he actually, that's something that winning the Big Four is big to them. They're gonna get their Wake's best shot. It is gonna be one of your fun things of Wake Forest is like leading the country and having like the worst rush defense or something like that. State cannot run the ball, and conventional wisdom would make you think like, this is the get right game. But like, for whatever reason, that never works for NC State. I feel like it just doesn't turn into this situation where like they suddenly run the ball. The number's 5.5. The total was pretty starchy. I think it was north of 57 or so. The last couple games that State has won in this series, the games have gone under. I liked State to cover. I think it's going to be just like last week. I think they're going to.
Yeah, I mean, State was never in danger of losing the football game last week.
No.
It was just a matter of that it wasn't pretty and that it was a slog. And it does seem like the offense is not making any kind of progress.
It was almost like, have we started the thing from last year? This defense might just become really good. And they may just be something you can lean on. They were really good last week against Northern Illinois. They got confidence. They got momentum. We know that's like a big deal in college sports. I mean, and such. And so that side of the ball played well. I'm going to trust into that side of the defense until I'm given reason not to. They know Wake. They know Wake inside and out. They know how to play the mesh and all of that thing. I kind of like under, and I like State to cover.
Okay.
In this one. I think State wins, and it's not going to be pretty, and fans are still going to be mad.
Let's go to the other game in the triangle. Pitt is 4-0 somehow at Carolina. Carolina's 3-2, coming off of the just a gut-wrenching loss to Duke and the embarrassing loss to James Madison. The book is just absolutely begging you to take Pitt minus 2.5. The Panthers on the road, a noon game. As Ken points out here, can't wait to see the bet on the UNC Pitt game, especially since Josh said if you don't score 20, what are you doing? Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think was Carolina the right side last week?
They were, and they did cover if you got it early in the week.
Right.
They did cover if you got it early. But that was another one that went off the other way. Man, I gotta think this is Pitt, right? I mean,
really?
Pitt slog. Well, here's why I would say Pitt. They've already played 2 games where they had a fight for their life, and they kind of got away. They definitely got away with it against Cincinnati, and then they beat one of their rivals in West Virginia. Last week they play Youngstown, which was they score 73 points. I think, and no, excuse me, 2 weeks ago. So they've been off. They're coming off an open date.
Okay.
I like Pitt in this game. I know the book is telling me not to take Pitt. I think Carolina's done. Carolina's done until Mac announces that he's leaving, and then I think the players will fight for him in one of the final games, whether that's state or another one. I don't know, but yeah.
I'm staying away from the spread. Just give me the total. I think it's 64.5.
Going over.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pitt's 2 1A games this year were shootouts. Cincinnati, heck, they scored 55 against Kent. This is I got this wrong at the beginning of the year, but I'm gonna get it right now. Pitt has Western Carolina's offensive coordinator and their number 1 receiver and their number 1 running back. Gotcha. So when State played Western Carolina earlier this year, I got where that guy ended up wrong.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, he went and took his players. So this is this is like Eli Drinkwitz leaving Boise State, coming to NC State, and not only bringing Ryan Finley, but bringing like his top running back and his top receiver. That's what Pitt is. I think Pitt wins this football game. I don't think we're getting a Carolina Renaissance again until Mac says it's over, and then they will fight. Let's look. I know they close with State.
They have Georgia Tech next week.
Yeah, they got Wake at home. That's probably feels like, or maybe he finally wins a game at Florida State. He finally beats his alma mater on November 2nd. Maybe that's one for Carolina. I do not like Carolina this week.
I'm staying away. I'm staying away on that. On the side. I just
Josh Goodson, Carolina grad. This is you being like, I can't.
No, I don't know. It's just there's a lot of things going on. Is Pitt even is that good? Like, is Pitt that good?
You've long been a Pitt doubter, but Pat Narduzzi and Dave Dorn are the same person. Yeah. They are the same person. My God. Let's go to my hammer play of the week. You ready?
Oh, God.
We're staying in the ACC. I have been doubting Clemson in the sense that I don't think that they're actually good. I think they're just ACC good. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you who's done with their year. I will tell you right now who the fuck is done with their year. That's Florida State. So any Clemson number in the league under 17 should be an auto play. I know this game is at night. Remember the guy reading the book in the stands the year that Clemson beat Florida State so bad? There might not even be anybody in the stands to read a book for this game. I mean, they might not even show up for this game. Like that's how down bad Florida State is. I think Clemp hammers him.
The second quarterback's playing.
Right. They did finally get rid of DJU. So
and
there is that.
I could see
it's 14.5 is the number, by the way.
I could see a 1-game bump with him playing. The kid's played. This is the kid that played against Georgia. This is the kid that played against Louisville last year in the ACC title game. It's not and some people in Florida State would tell you that they want to see this happen just to see what they got type thing. They would rather watch this version of Florida State with the backup than with DJU. I think if DJU's playing I think it is a hammer Clemson. It's not so much take Florida State thing. I think Florida State's defense can still kind of play a little bit. Night game probably doesn't matter much. I don't know who's going to care. I kind of like the backup quarterback. I would stay away from the number, but I don't hate your Clemson thing. Clemson's rolling. Clemson's also rolling right now.
They are. That's what I'm saying. This is more of a, I think Clemson wins this game 28-7 than anything else. I'm not saying it's going to be NC State or App State going down there. I just think Clemson's at a point defensively where they've got things all tuned up and ready to roll. All right. We have a contest to get to, but first, you have mortgage needs, you have loan needs. Check out Josh Goodson, RTP Mortgage, rtpmortgage.com, 252-361-1415. We got good news. Numbers are moving in the right direction, but the cost of houses keeps going up though, Josh.
Yeah. No, rates are looking good. Still in that downtrend. It's kind of what I've been saying. I expect it to kind of continue. I think one of the biggest things is going to have an effect. Yes, it's going to make buyers get off the fence, but I think it's going to be good for the market to get some sellers to finally sell again. The resale inventory in the market is not as good. You live in a similar neighborhood to me. I'm actually starting to see more houses come for sale in my neighborhood over the last month or so than had been before, because I think some sellers are finally understanding, hey, I know I have 3% and I know I'm going to go to 6, but it's better than going to 7 or better than going to 8 and such. And a lot of people have equity as well. So I'm starting to hear from a lot of people in that sense of like, hey, Josh, you did my mortgage a couple years ago. You helped me refi. We do need to sell. Can you let me know what the numbers are going to look like on this new house after we do sell and all that? So reach out, give me a call. Refinances are back. Home equity lines are a good tool as well to consolidate debt. So not a bad time. And I think we're just kind of at the start of this like downtrend of rates over the next little bit. So all in all, the market's starting to get better.
All right, give him a call, 252-361-1415. All right, we have our congratulations to Daniel Larson. Daniel won the September contest. Josh will take care of him with some tickets to a Hurricanes game, probably not in October, since there's only 3 home games there, right?
Yeah.
But here's how it works. You enter our contest on the DraftKings Sportsbook pool. I keep track of the monthly standings. At the end of the month, we pick the person with the most wins. That person wins tickets from Josh Goodson and RTP Mortgage. Again, congratulations to Daniel Larson. New contest this week. Here is your code. Let me find it. I will update it in the comments below. But DraftKings TA6QG8V. Go under pools, join a private pool, enter that code. I believe there's 12 games on the card this week since we're taping before the Thursday night games here. So go in, make sure you enter the contest, take care of those games. And again, by the end of October, we will now have a new winner. So congratulations to Daniel. And of course, DraftKings is the official gambling partner of the OG. Use that promo code OG24 if you have not signed up yet. First time you will put $5 down. You will get $200 in bonus bets thanks to our friends at DraftKings. DraftKings Sportsbook. Now's the part where I play the disclaimer. Now.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball.
All right, let's get to Duke, Georgia Tech before we get to your hammer play, Josh. Duke did come back and beat Carolina last week. They're now 5-0 on the season. Say what you want about those opponents, but they're 5-0. They go to Georgia Tech, who's 3-2. And Vegas is telling you something, sir.
Yeah.
The line in this game is Georgia Tech -9.
Yeah.
I did not expect this to be 9. I was thinking 4.5. I was thinking 6. I was thinking maybe 7. I did not see 9 coming on this line. Which way you see this one going?
Duke, was it 2013 when they won the Coastal?
Yes.
I didn't think that team was ever really like great that year. Mainly,
Sure.
mainly because I saw a terrible NC State team go over there and probably should have beat them. And if it wasn't for like 2 punt return for touchdowns and pick sixes in the fourth quarter, all that to be said is Duke's hot, man. I'm taking Duke. I like Duke.
Really?
Yes, I know what
Yeah.
the number's telling you. I just don't feel like Georgia Tech is that much better. Like, usually, if I look at these situations and we have these conversations a lot, it's like, why is the number like this? It's usually because one team is just so much more talented than the other team. Also, and it, when we've talked about why is Clemson a 25-point favorite against this team, it's like, yeah, A, they're really good this year. B, they're also more talented than this team. Like, you can kind of make sense. I don't think Georgia Tech is out there like out talenting the hell out of Duke by no means. I like the 9.5 number. Georgia Tech isn't great. They've lost 2 games this year. They're coming off a bye week, so I know that that's happening. But I don't have any reason to take Georgia Tech to win by double digits in this game.
All right, Q Giglio is a Duke hater. I'm taking Georgia Tech in this game. This is a reload the musket game for Duke.
But
I think they were lucky to beat Carolina.
Duke's not ranked. That's another thing.
I know.
Georgia Tech's favored against the 5-0 team. Like this is like going against all of your yellow pad bullshit that you've been doing the last month or so.
I understand what you're saying to me, but I think Duke poured it out to come back. I think they celebrated, did all the things they should do when you beat your rival. This is a reload the musket game. Georgia Tech had the week off. Georgia Tech did not cover against Louisville, as some of my friends have pointed out to me, because they had a field goal blocked and returned for a touchdown. That's why they didn't cover in that game, by the way. I like Georgia Tech's defense. I don't think Duke's offense is very good. It has been better with Star Thomas, but I don't think it's very good. This to me looks like 24-10, 27-10 to me. That's what this looks like to me. Okay. 24-14 wins it for me too. So I am taking Georgia Tech. I'm laying the points, and this is a situational play. That's all. Duke could be playing anyone else who's functional after beating Carolina, going on the road, some of those other things. I don't see it.
I just don't trust Georgia Tech. Like that's just that. Yeah, I understand the situation that you're speaking of. So.
Totally fair. Before we get out of here, you have a hammer play for this week?
I do. Ohio State. I think they're playing like their first actual like real game this week. So I don't understand how they're somehow. I mean, I guess every now and again they'll have a year where they play like a Texas at home in like September or something like that. But first real game at home against NC State West or NC State Midwest. They're hosting Iowa. The number's only 19.5. The last 2 times these teams have played each other, I think they've actually been in the Big Ten championship game. It just hasn't been a game. Hasn't remotely been a game. Ohio State's won by 30 or 40 points in both of them. Ohio State, I still think, is probably the most what people would say with the most talented roster, especially the most expensive roster, most likely in the country.
Yeah.
At home, 19 win by 3 touchdowns. Give me that. I mean, Iowa probably isn't going to score. And usually in these games, whenever you have the really good defense, that's your strength against the really good, the really, really good offense and defense. I'm going to take Ohio State to cover that game. I like them at 19.5, and I think that they're not going to pull a Michigan and like quit trying either.
No, not in the spotlight. You're right. This is their season opener. It's the SEC game of the week on CBS. I know it's the Big Ten, but you'll hear the music and be very confused when you turn that game on CBS at 3:30.
Did you have any other games you looked at or liked?
Well, I was going to ask you too, and see what you thought. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Part of me says, boy, I really hope Alabama plays somebody competitive, because you talk about having a hangover. Fortunately for them, and probably not by accident, they go to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Yes, Vanderbilt beat Virginia Tech. I don't have a lot of confidence in Vanderbilt fighting in this football game. Plus, you do have to now tip your hat to Kalen DeBoer. Their offense is obviously at a different level this year, with the same quarterback and a remodeled skill player positions. Though it's really kind of impressive what Kalen DeBoer has been able to do stepping in. The other one is, of course, now do you go back to the scoring lover? Does Georgia reload that thing against Hugh Freeze and his total ineptness? The number is 24. It's down between the hedges, 330. I want to get back on the horse.
This feels like a FU, I'm Georgia game.
Right. I want to get back on the horse. This feels like a 49-3 game.
Like almost one of those take Georgia loaded up sampler.
Okay.
Right? First quarter.
I thought you were going to say, but I just want to make sure.
Well, I'm with you on that. Maybe that should be the hammer play. Like this feels like a FU, I'm Georgia, even though they don't really need to. I mean, they lost to Alabama on the road, right? There's no shame in that. But it feels like that's an FU, I'm Georgia game. A couple of games I'm looking at. I never like to talk about these things in a setting because of what's actually happening in real life. But Appalachian State actually plays this weekend. They're not at home.
Yeah, it's weird. We saw this with ECU back in, what was it, 99?
99.
Played at Carter Finley, beat Miami. Emotional game, obviously.
App's not at home. They're playing at Marshall. Marshall, I think, kind of stinks this year. They're not like the Marshall last year or even such. Again, I hate to use a natural disaster as some means of motivation, but it can't not be, right? Like right. I'm thinking, so that is an interesting game I'm looking at. I kind of like App in that scenario. I like the Pirates.
Oh, Charlotte is terrible.
Charlotte's terrible, and I think last week was big for ECU. Like just winning, like closing a game, winning the game. I like them. They're laying 8.5. I like that game. Here's one that I thought.
My son's a sophomore at ECU. That was the first time he's seen the ECU beat a 1A team at home.
And he's not a freshman.
No. And they're 5 games into the season.
Virginia Tech. Did you see this number?
Virginia Tech's got to be licking their wounds. No,
laying 8.5 at Stanford. Do not like that spot.
That's got plucky Cardinal written all over it, doesn't it?
Stanford just had to come to Clemson and take their we got to go east and lose by 25, but they fall. Stanford did kind of hang and fight in that game. Stanford feels like a team that's not just going to quit, type deal. Virginia Tech had to go down to Miami, go back home. Now they're going out west.
Stomped. Yeah.
Stanford 8.5 and Virginia Tech. I just don't like them in that spot as well. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting slate this week. There's a few games I'm just like kind of intrigued to watch. Tennessee, Arkansas. Tennessee back on the road, having to play Ole Miss at South Carolina. So there's a lot of games like that. It's not like I think either next week or the week after this is like the crazy slate day of like Texas, Oklahoma, Oregon, Ohio State, all of those things. I think we're like a week or two away from that.
Yeah.
But,
all right. Well, again, congratulations to Larson for winning our September contest. Thanks again to Josh Goodson and Artipa Mortgage for those Hurricanes tickets. We're doing it again here in October. Just look below. You'll see the promo code to join the private pool for the first week of October. I'll keep those standings. We'll have a whole month-long contest. And Josh, I'll see you on Saturday. I'll be over in Carter Finley Stadium.
I'll be there.
All right. Well, let's do this. Appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you again next week.